Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. Today we are going to be looking into or listening to Rabbits Season 2 Episode 8, The Mysterious Traveler. We got 8, 9, and 10. Then we'll start the first Rabbits novel, and after that we'll do the second Rabbits novel. Just because I don't feel like listening to it this time. I've done skip past the initial intro for this episode. I mean, we've listened to it a bunch of times so far, so yeah, it doesn't hurt to skip it every now and again.
While I was researching this podcast, I met a publisher at a mid-sized imprint of a Big Five publishing house. You see, I'd initially wanted to write a non-fiction book about underground games and gaming, and those rare game experiences that are connected to urban myths and legends.
Which in itself would be kind of a cool non-fiction book to do. Would be, exploring games and urban legends and myths that have come about because of, whether they be board games, role-play games, tabletop, virtual, what have you. It would be kind of interesting.
I'd found an agent who led me to an editor that freelanced for the publisher. We all started talking, and eventually the publishing company made me an offer.
But was it an offer that you couldn't refuse?
The offer was perfectly fair and in line with publishing norms. And because of that fact, it wasn't going to change my life or pay my rent.
Yep. The starving artist, and I consider authors being artists. So yeah, they're probably starting out at the very bottom, being the first novel, or first story, first book, what have you. I'm not really sure how you classify it. First non-fiction published work, I guess. I don't know.
At least not for very long. Right around the same time, Nick Silver made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
There we go. I bet you it didn't involve any horse heads.
Mainly because I loved what the Public Radio Alliance was doing with Tanis and the last movie, but also because my agent had told me that if this podcast was successful, I'd be in a much better bargaining position with the publisher.
And that's always a good thing.
So my literary career was put on hold and my broadcast career began. And
it makes you wonder how many people have done that, have wanted to do a literary, be an author, what have you, whether it be fiction, nonfiction, or what have you, but had to sideline into something else in the, whether it be podcast, TV, radio, what have you, in order to get their chops in order to get the money they deserve from a book publisher.
If you ever do write a book and you find yourself enjoying this podcast, you know what to do.
And I did. I bought both books, Rabbits and The Quiet Room.
Through all of this stuff, I remained in touch with the editor I'd met who did freelance work for the publishing company that had wanted to publish my book. Her name is Kennedy North.
That is an interesting name. Just because of, like, John Kennedy and Oliver North. But, that's just how my demented little brain works sometimes.
Because Kennedy had read my pitch documents, she knew that I was deeply engaged with a mysterious, nameless underground game at the time I'd pitched her. So, when something came across her desk at the major news magazine where she worked part-time, she sent it to me.
See, and that's another thing. I wonder how many agents, publishers, and stuff have other gigs until they can land a client that makes makes substantial amounts of money. Like, what did Stephen King's publisher do before, or his agent? What was Stephen King's agent doing before he landed Stephen King as a client? So yeah, it just makes you wonder.
Immediately. Do you mind just repeating what you said? I'm recording now.
Sure. Ready?
Ready.
Okay, so I was telling you this story about a pitch that came across my desk for a documentary series.
What was it?
Well, this thing they were pitching was a murder, or multiple murder, I suppose. They pitched us a cult setup, Satanists, maybe, 4 people dead, all adults, all staying in a cabin in the Pacific Northwest.
Wait a minute. I think we've seen this movie.
These became known as the Martin Lake Cabin Murders.
Okay, no offense, but that doesn't sound all that unique. The Pacific Northwest has always been full of,
Crazy.
Yes, crazies. That's a good word.
I mean, I was going to say moral turmoil.
Right.
So, what happened?
Or moral ambiguities. That's another good one.
Happened to the people in that cabin?
What if I told you they were playing a game at the time of their death?
I bet you it wasn't Monopoly.
Game. Okay, and...
Let's just say it wasn't Monopoly.
That was totally unintentional.
Rabbits.
Maybe. It's not clear, but at the time, the detective in charge of the case described the thing they'd been playing as, and I quote, some kind of fucked up real-world game.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, when the police investigator starts referring to things like that publicly, yeah, in those terms, yeah, it's messed up.
Really?
Yeah. Apparently, there were a number of maps spread out on the dining room table where the 4 of them were found dead.
What kind of maps?
Lots of symbols and numbers and shit. Apparently, that's why they thought it was cult stuff.
Interesting. Yeah, that is... That has a crossover into Tanis. And hopefully when we get to doing Tanis, I'll remember it. But yeah, there is a parallel with Tanis here.
This is definitely interesting. Do you have anything else?
I'll send you everything I have, but this isn't an active investigation, so there's not much.
Cold case file.
What do you mean it's not active? This is old?
These murders took place 25 years ago.
Wow. Okay, so why are you calling me about this now?
Something I think you're going to find far more interesting.
What is that?
A group of other more recent deaths.
Yeah, always start with the old deaths before you get into the new deaths, I guess,
What happened?
Last week, 2 writers, an editor, a lawyer, and a producer.
That just sounds like the setup for a really, really corny joke.
Were all killed in 5 separate incidents all over the world.
Oh, geez. So, wait, what does that have to do with the Martin Lake Cabin murders?
One of the writers who died was the person who pitched me the original story.
That is kind of interesting. Kind of quinky-dink. Coincidence.
The other 4 people were all connected to the documentary series he'd been pitching.
That's an extremely unlikely coincidence.
However, if you eliminate what is impossible, whatever is left, however improbable, has to be your answer.
Do you have anything else?
I'm going to read you something from the pitch document the writer sent me.
Yeah, that's interesting. That the person, Colin Riley, has seen or heard something that makes this imperative.
Okay.
Here it is. Okay. So, we're going to be looking into the unsolved Martin Lake cabin murders. 4 people were found murdered, sitting around a table covered in maps featuring arcane symbols. We've titled our program based on a phrase that the murderers had written in blood on the wall of the cabin. It's called, "The Door is Open."
Ba-ba-ba-bum. There we go again. And even the music backs me up on this one.
From the Public Radio Alliance and Minnow Beats Whale, you're listening to Rabbits. I'm Riley Bennett. Stay with us.
The second intro, I guess you would call it, of the show. Or kind of a musical interlude like The Weather and Welcome to Night Vale.
Separating biology and behavioral sciences from architecture is a fatal mistake.
And I think with that bit of music, we're going to call this good here. I hope everyone's doing well. Hope you had the time or had the chance to check out the Welcome to Night Vale episodes that I posted over the weekend. So I know they're long, but that was the intent. Weekends being slow and laid back, and that whole shtick. And like I said, I plan on doing more of those. But the long ones like that are only going to be on the weekend. And these regular, 15 to 25 minutes, sometimes shorter than 15-minute ones are going to be, weekdays. So I hope everyone's having fun. I hope everyone's enjoying themselves. And remember, be a good human. Be good to other humans. Peace.
Hey, it's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are?